Welcome to Fulham Fix. I'm just recovering from Ivan acquiring a number of one of my Fulham heroes, Danny Cullip, and phoning him up live on the podcast 2 weeks back. But Danny is going to come on when he sold his house to the show next season.
I'd say we get him a moving in gift as well. We get him like a pot plant or something to say, look, yes, for the new house.
Oh, when he comes on the show?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I would love to do that. And I would, if I was to get Danny Cullip any sort of present, moving in plant, it would definitely be a hardened plant because that's how I remember him, just nuts, mental, nut it, get out, get rid, and then corners like a presence.
Yeah. I feel like he still has that. I mean, on the phone he said, "Who's this?"
Yeah,
and I'm like,
The way he spoke to you when he picked up the phone was like when someone's grabbing your shirt at a corner. Who's that anyone?
That's nice though, isn't it? It's
great.
the OG. Yeah. Fair enough.
Anyway, so you can go back to last week's episode, Rob Scott's, if you want to hear Danny Cullip on the back end of it as well. 2 for the price of 1 on the 96-97 edition.
Hell yeah.
Who's on this week, Ivan?
Oh man, our all-time top scorer. I mean, it was only a matter of time before we got him on and found out more about him. But I mean, he's such a big part of the club still. He's there on so many match days, and it's. We've said it before. We've made jokes, but the reality is, I think Mitrovic was never going to catch that. I just think he was still, how many goals ahead? Like 70, 80 goals ahead of Mitro right at that point.
Yeah.
It's just such a unique record. And despite the fact that Gordon Davies, our all-time top scorer, is very humble about it and he's throwing out names of people he thinks is going to catch the record, I'm saying no one's catching it. The game has changed too much. It's evolved too much.
Yeah.
That, I think in order to catch a record as incredible as that, you need a Mitrovic in the Championship for 6-7 seasons, and that just won't happen. He's a fascinating guy.
Oh, he's brilliant, and as Jeff pointed out, he turned up properly suited, like old school Fulham legend, how you'd want to see him, on time, just a true gentleman of the game and a Fulham hero. Let's see Gordon.
Gordon Davies, welcome to Fulham Fix. It's an absolute pleasure having you on. Obviously, we've met many times. You guys have played together, but we now officially got you sat down on the pod. And thank you for coming down, honestly.
Well, that's quite right. I'm scared stiff at the moment.
Why are you scared stiff?
Well, I don't know what you're going to talk about.
You're scared of us?
Yeah, you too, yeah.
Not about being here at the cottage and the game tonight?
No, I love coming back to the cottage. And fortunately, some 20 years ago, I was invited back to help on the hospitality side. So, I've been doing the hospitality for 20 years. I've been boring the socks off all the supporters for that amount of time. And, I just love coming back and love being at the place.
Just before we started recording, you were talking about that and saying you've been doing the hospitality so long that, the kids that you met now parents and have kids. And I've got a nice little story as well, if that's all right to share with you. But my granddad, he turned 95 here. I mean, this was... 14, 15 years ago, and Fulham invited him and my dad at the time to go into one of the lounges, and they sat down and had a drink, and you came over and just sat down with them and started chatting, and my dad was very excited, and my granddad, bless his heart, he couldn't see, but I don't think you knew that quite then, and so he was chatting to you for ages. And then after probably about 5 minutes said, you're not from round here, are you? I can sense the accent or whatever. I hadn't got a clue who you were, just thought you were chatting. And then you revealed, or my dad revealed who you were. And I just think that there's something really lovely about that. I know
it's always nice to sort of speak or meet older supporters anyway, even the younger ones now. But sort of something similar to that. There was a blind person who I didn't know, and he used to come to the game, sit in the Johnny Haynes stand, and he used to have a friend with him who basically
said what was happening on the pitch.
Wow. So I was then introduced to him years later, and we just started talking, and he literally didn't mention about being blind, and he said, I've seen you playing year in, year out at the club. And he said, I love what you do on the pitch. And then about 20 seconds later, his mate who was with him said, Gordon, you do know he's blind. And I went, no. I said, I didn't know he was blind. And with him saying, I've seen you play on the pitch, I said, you must be very, very good at your job. But it was just one of those things that cropped up when you sort of don't even think about that when you're playing, and sometimes when you come into games. that there's the amount of possibly people who are visually impaired that come to watch the games, and they just love it when they're being told what's going on. So I've always tried to put a smile on people's faces. Not necessarily through the way I played, sometimes through the things I did. But I enjoyed the game. I played with a smile, and I hope the supporters have had smiles on their faces.
Do you know, it's so interesting hearing both those stories, because since I've been coming to Fulham, since I was very young, the only name I've heard every time I've been here is Gordon Davies. Someone will say Gordon Davies. It's like you're written into the walls of the place or in the grass, like a sort of mythological figure. And it was interesting when I met you playing together, because you spoke to me about something, and you might be able to describe to me of what the essence of Fulham is. But when I met you, I was like, oh, this is proper Fulham. And it's something that's very hard to sort of capture. But do you think there's something about Fulham Football Club that has remained since the days when you were first playing here? Does it feel like a similar club?
I think it's remained before I even came here, because I was always told about the friendly club that Fulham were, even before I joined, speaking to ex-pros who played for Swansea or Cardiff or Newport and played at Craven Cottage. So they were always talking about the good football that Fulham played. It was a lovely place to go to play football, because generally the hostility of our crowd has only come in since we've started having success.
Interesting.
And I've always had a go at the Fulham supporters, and I've always used the phrase, sometimes they need to stick a dynamite up the backside to get them going. But they've been great support. And as I say, it's always been noted as a family club. Mm-hmm. And I think the way that I was brought up in non-league, you had to talk to the supporters whether you had a good game or a bad game. So when I was at Merthyr, there was only one bar. There was a bar and a lounge, and that was it. And you had to go in one of the two, and both had supporters in. So if you had a good game or a bad game, you were still going in there, and you had to face the music. Mm-hmm. Didn't play well every day. I missed chances. So you explained to the supporters. So when I came here, I thought, that's the way I've been brought up. I'll keep that level with the supporters. And so every time I finished a game here, I'd walk across the Putney end. The first bar that I used to come to was then the old supporters bar, which was turned into McBride's later on. And I always used to go in there for one drink. And the first time I went in there, the place was buzzing. There was a lot of people in there. Yes, having a drink after the game. I walked in and suddenly it was a bit quiet because I heard somebody saying, "Hey, Ivan's just walked in." Because most of the players just went straight into the old Riversiders to be with their family, their friends, and supporters that they knew. So when I went in there, it was weird, and I went up to the bar and I was just about to get a pint of shandy because I was driving home later, and somebody said, "Ivan, what are you doing in here?" And I said, "Well,
to explain what went wrong in the game."
I said, "I've just come in to have a chat with the supporters." And they said, "Well, no other player comes in." I said, "Well, that's not got nothing to do with me." I said, "But I'll chat." And I said, "If I have a bad game, I'll still come in here." So he initially said, "Yes, I'll buy you your lager shandy." So I said, "Fine." So I had a 15-minute chat with supporters, and then I said, "Well, I've got to go now. I've got to go and see my family." So I went into the Riversiders. So I kept that on when I was playing.
In my head, you're still in your kit with the pint.
No. Fortunately, I wasn't still in my kit. But yeah, so I did that initially when I came here. And the supporters enjoyed it because you're linking the players to the supporters.
Of course, yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, the way the game has gone now, I describe it to people as it's now us and them. Because the first team don't really mix with the supporters, and the supporters never get to see or chat to the players unless it's a specific occasion and one of them is being wheeled out into a specific area. So that's the way that I thought about it when I came here, and I found out that it is a family club. That is still the essence of the club. And one thing that I will say is that every ex-player that I've ever spoken to that has left the club, I've not heard one of them say anything bad about the club, but I've heard a lot of bad stories about other clubs.
Yeah, we noticed that as well. It's incredible, isn't it? How that stays with people.
There's a real fondness, isn't there? And it's lovely to.
It is.
Yeah.
It's always lovely to hear that.
One player that's left the club very recently is Alexander Mitrovic, who was bearing down.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should have that reaction because he was bearing down on a certain goal tally as the highest goal scorer in Fulham's history. Yeah. When Alan Shearer was asked about that of Harry Kane leaving, he said he was very relieved that Harry Kane left England because his tally stayed intact. You seem very humble and accountable, as your story's been then. Honestly, really, in your deepest heart of hearts, were you slightly pleased when Mitrovic left?
Not really.
Come on.
No.
Can we hook him up to a lie detector?
David Hamilton, your predecessor.
Yeah, you did it.
Once said to me in the Riverside, he said, your record will never be broken.
Right, okay.
And I said, I bet you people said that about Johnny Haynes' record or Bedford Jezard's league goal-scoring record. Yeah. And I said, records are there to be broken. I said, it will be broken one day. Yeah. I said, but that is not going to be in the next sort of 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I've held on to that record now. I think it's 31 years.
I know. It's a lot. And go on. Sorry.
Or 30, or it could be 34 years ago. I think it was 1889. That's 1989 for you youngsters. 1989. I think I beat the record. So you are talking of 34 years.
Yeah.
So it is ridiculous. And I've said in hospitality and some interviews that if Mitrovic stays here, he will be the next record goal scorer.
Well, this is what I was going to say. I saw you on telly. I can't remember what the match was, but they'd got you on as the record goal scorer. I think Mitrovic was, absolutely doing what he does. And you said another couple of seasons he'll break my record. You were pretty adamant he would do that.
Well, I think he had 3 years left on his contract.
Yeah.
And he's 71 goals behind me, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, well, if he has a season like he has last season, then even if it's 17, 18... Yeah. 20 goals a season, that's his 3 seasons. And if he scores 20 goals a season for us for 3 years, the club are likely to give him another extra year.
To push it,
So I'm thinking he may only need 18, 19, 20,
it would have
whatever.
helped if he hadn't been banned for a third of the season as well.
Well, you look at him, he did quieten down. We gave him a chance by bringing him from Newcastle, and the supporters took to him. Yeah. We took the good with the bad, or the bad with the good, and it turned more good than bad.
Totally.
And without a doubt.
I said, you look at the attitude of the Man United game in the Cup. We should have had a penalty where I think Mitrovic got pushed in the back by Luke Shaw. Yeah. When one gets sent off, what was going on in his mind to go up to the referee and do what he did? Because we were playing well that day. Even with 10 men, we could have beaten Man United.
Definitely.
And where do we go from there? But to see him, the way that he left is more appalling to me than where he went to. If anybody is offered 3 times your wage in any job, come and work for me, I'll give you 3 times your wage, most people would say, yes, I'll go. I think when you read in the papers that, I think before he even come back pre-season, apparently the deal was signed and done. And that's why he started playing up. And although it's hearsay, if he did say, I'll never play for this club again, then I think that hurts the supporters more than his teammates, than the management. And the supporters are the ones who, as I said earlier, gave him the support when he came from Newcastle to be where he was, a club legend, and probably going to beat my goal scoring record. His legacy has been tarnished. Now that people seem to be leaving Saudi, coming back, and going somewhere else, then it all depends how much he's prepared to drop in wages if he wants to come back here. And if he comes back here, the supporters wouldn't hold it against him then, saying, I'll never play for this club again. Yeah. They'll take him on board and they'll chant his name and he'll start scoring goals. So we'll just have to wait and see. But
at the moment, your record's set.
At the moment...
I'll tell you one thing Mitro never did.
Go on.
Going to the old McBride bar and explain to the fans what he did wrong. I think, do you know what? I'm going to call it now.
Go on.
In all of our lifetimes, your record's safe.
It will still stand.
I think so.
Well, put it this way, I've been very proud to hold that record as I say, for the 34 years that I've had it, and wherever it's brought up, it's a lovely feeling to have held the record. But Johnny Haynes' record stood for, I think, 31 years.
Yeah.
I was expecting mine to go in a similar vein of fashion. But I tell you what, and I've said this in hospitality already, there's one, and I'll use the phrase kid, who, if he comes back to Fulham the beginning of next season and he spends his entire career here, I've already said in hospitality that this boy will score in excess of 200 goals for Fulham Football Club.
Are we talking about
yes.
JS?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've got the highest respect for him.
He's looking good, isn't he?
We did
really
have him in hospitality before he went to Birmingham. Yeah. When he was at Exeter, I wrote a letter, old-fashioned, didn't send an email. I wrote a letter to him about his position at Exeter and his father and the family, and hopefully he scores goals down there. He never received it. So I'm hoping he's been in touch with Exeter and said, is there a letter waiting there for me?
Post office.
But I thought that he's got the ability, he's a natural goal scorer, and if he comes back to Fulham, you've got to play him in the position where he's going to be more effective and not put him in the team just because he's an up-and-coming player.
Interesting.
So that would be my thought on Jay Stansfield.
He's looking very good at Birmingham.
To bring it back to you, though, Gordon, quickly, what I want to know is, because obviously it's before my time you were playing at Fulham.
All right, don't rub it in. Don't rub it in.
I want to know what kind of goals you scored, because I've heard it in folklore. The Chesterfield goal, there was one that was like somewhere near the corner flag. There's great footage of like a double 1-2 against Newcastle when we do them 4-1. Yeah. But just for people like the younger supporters, what sort of centre forward were you when we look out on a cottage and we see him play now and you see visions of the ghost of Gordon Davies scoring goals? What would you see?
I suppose if you talk to anybody that I played with, they would say that probably 90% of my goals came from within the penalty spot to the goal line. If you look, you mentioned the Newcastle goal. Yes, great one touch and a finish off the near post. But the second goal that I scored that day, which Dean Coney breaks down the right hand side, cuts inside. He has a shot. It's parried by the keeper, but it squirts underneath him, and it is this far from the line.
That's great.
I'm there to tap it in. There's one goal that I'll tell you about because you wouldn't have seen. I played up front with Leroy Rossignol, and it was away at Swansea. And it shows how long ago it was, because there was a U-shaped line, which were the touch lines and the goal line and what have you. So there's this U-shaped goal line going from post to post.
Oh, sorry.
So it's just not a straight line.
It's a straight line, but it's a U shape.
Oh, as in it goes sort of dips?
Yes, it dips from one post to the other.
Right, okay.
So Leroy gets I can't remember whether it's a shot or a header, and the keeper saves it, and I think it comes off the post, and it's literally rolling
into the ditch.
It's like a gutter. It's like a drainage pipe. It's rolling down there. But I'm the first one there, so I tap it in. So that's scoring not even from an inch. So 98, I would say 90 to 95% of my goals would have come within that 12-yard area. So
but that's being in the right place. That's an important. There aren't many strikers that are able to do that, and when they are, they're gold dust.
Yeah.
Finding that
there's two sort of nicknames. Alan Clark, before your time, was his nickname was Sniffer, because he used to sniff out the chances and that. Yeah. Then there was a fox in the box, that type of... I was probably one of those. Another phrase that was used is goal hanger. Yeah. So you're just waiting for something to come back off the keeper or hit the post, come back out, and you tap it in from a yard, from 6 inches from a foot. So, you've got to go in and sometimes it's anticipation and sometimes it's a bit of luck, but you've got to be there to knock the ball in the back of the net. That's what I think I was paid to do. Yeah. And so therefore, that's what I concentrated on.
If you could best compare yourself to a striker playing now, who would you go with?
A couple of years ago, or a few years ago, probably Sergio Aguero.
Okay.
Because he's probably smaller than me. Yeah. He's more squat, so he's never going to win many headers. But he was always there or thereabouts when the ball's coming in. You go through the likes of Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler. Robbie Fowler scored many goals from outside the box, but if you look at a lot of it was coming back off the keeper, and you've got that person who's following it in. And sometimes you've got to react quicker than the defenders, but as long as you get, I wouldn't even say half a yard, sometimes it's half a foot, it's that 6 inches that you can get your foot on it just to touch it in.
Instincts, intuitive instinct.
What's quite interesting about your career is you didn't make it pro until you were 22.
Yeah.
So then was there a point where you just thought, oh, this isn't going to happen? Were you aiming for it to happen, or were you just expecting it and just cracking on?
No, I was. I never thought. Looking back on it now, perhaps I was good at 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. But you never, after you've had that chance, I signed for Manchester City on schoolboy forms when I was 15. Okay. And then when my 16th birthday came, it was a decision by the club to sign you on like apprentice forms from 16 to 18, or leave you go. So at 15, I was cock-a-hoop. I was a Manchester United supporter, and I'd signed for Man City, so that was interesting. I met the likes of Corrigan, Book, Bell, Summerby, Lee, all those, and I changed allegiances from Man United to Manchester City, and I've been a Man City supporter ever since. So to sign for them, and then 1 year later to just have a letter through, it's not good when you sort of... the first thing is, unfortunately, is the first word. Yeah. Dear Gordon, unfortunately... And that's all I saw. Yeah. And I just handed it to my dad.
And at that age, that hits hard as well.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I suppose these days you would probably look at how is the kid going to react mentally, physically, whatever. There's all these mental problems now. Whether I had mental problems at the time, I don't know. Probably an hour later, I was out on the street playing football with my friends. So you think, I'm not going to be a professional footballer. What can I do? I stayed on at school, took my A-levels, then went to teacher training college to become a PE teacher, and came out and fortunately got a job in Merthyr itself, in a junior school. And then I played non-league football, and I was expecting to finish up at 65 years of age, being a teacher for all that length of time, and probably playing for Merthyr Tydfil in what was then the Southern League for the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Yeah. It ended up 18 months, and because I played wide right to start with, and I was a greedy little so-and-so.
Goal hanger.
Because I used to go past the fullback, look up, somebody's free on the far post, cut inside, have a shot. A bit like sort of the usual sort of wide men now. They cut inside, have a shot. But I scored 30 goals in my first season from right wing. And that started some interest. Yeah. And then in between the August and the following February, after about 3 games of the season, we played 4-4-2. Big man, small man up front, and I was still wide right. The number 10, if we want to class him, we played a nice local derby, Merthyr Tydfil against Barry Town, and that is like the Alamo. That is, it is fighting, it is kicking, it is punching. Yeah.
Barry Town.
Barry Town, yeah.
Wow, okay.
And Mickey Lenehan, who was the number 10, he fell down, he got tackled, and as the right back jumped over him, he stamped down on his face, and he fractured his cheekbone.
Oh, Jesus.
So he was then out for the next 2 to 3 months. So I got pushed from the right wing into the number 10 position. And that was the making of me, probably, because between the August and the February, I'd scored 35 goals in the Southern League. I think it could have been the Premier Division, I can't remember. And there was a lot of interest. So suddenly, from thinking I'm going to be playing for Merthyr Tydfil and teaching, suddenly there's a thought of, hang on, you might actually get a second chance. And I did.
And Fulham's the first pro contract you sign, am I right in saying that?
Yes, you are right in saying it. When I spoke to the ex-pros, which I mentioned earlier from Swansea, that played for Merthyr, they said about Fulham, they think it would be a good fit for me, the style of football, the pitch, and etc. And so I travelled with my father to meet Bobby Campbell and Mick Kelly to sign a contract. And of course, this is before, this is for the youngsters, this is before mobile phones. So there's no way getting in touch with me. So the chairman of Merthyr Tydfil phones up. There's only my grandmother at home, and said, right, is Gordon there? No, he's gone out with his father. Where's he gone? And don't know. Right. When he comes in, tell him to phone me straight away. So I came back after signing for Fulham, phoned the chairman up, and he was a Davis as well. And I said, Mr. Davis, you want me to give you a ring? And he said, yes, Gordon. He said, you haven't signed for anybody, have you? And I went, yeah, I've signed for Fulham today. And he said something in Welsh, which I can't repeat. Okay. And then I heard a big thump. And he was in his late 70s. So I've gone, Mr. Chairman. You
thought that was it?
Mr. Chairman. So I'm thinking he's had a heart attack and he's collapsed.
A Barry Town player.
Yeah. So I could hear breathing. And then he suddenly said, oh, right, well, congratulations on signing for Fulham. I don't suppose... And they were in the old second division.
Yeah.
He says, I don't suppose you want to know what first division clubs came in for you today.
I don't know why we're saying this. We should be pleased.
No,
we don't want to know.
So in the old news of the world, it had been that that Fulham wanted £20,000 for me. Yeah. I wasn't on contract, and I was only going to sign a contract with Merthyr when I knew I was going somewhere.
Yeah. Sure.
So I literally signed for Fulham, and the day before I signed for Fulham, I saw the manager signed a contract, so Merthyr could get some money. But two clubs came in and basically offered Merthyr the £20,000 for me.
Yeah.
And when he said, I don't suppose you want to know, you think, oh, should I or shouldn't I? I said, well, go on, you may as well tell me. So he said the first team to phone up was Tottenham Hotspur, and the second club to phone was Liverpool.
Oh.
So I could have gone to Liverpool before Ian Rush. Oh. I could have gone to Tottenham before the likes of Garth Crooks.
Yeah.
But I was already a Fulham.
Did you not think
player.
to say, "Can I take that?"
No, I'm a man of my word, and there was no way I was going to phone Bobby Campbell up and say, "Can you rip the contract up?"
Right, yeah.
Because I didn't know what was going to happen. I was given a chance by Fulham, and for the first 2, 3, 4 one-year contracts that I signed, I felt as though I owed Fulham something for giving me a chance.
Sure.
When I came to Fulham, I came in late February. 2 months later, I was playing in the first team.
Yeah. So it worked.
I could have been at Tottenham in the reserves for 2 years, or Liverpool, and then not made the grade and been shipped out somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't change anything.
Liverpool do that. We know that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So I wouldn't change anything, to be perfectly honest with you, because I was given a chance, and yes, to me it was a second chance. So I thought I'll try and take it with both. Hands.
Did you have enough notice to give to your PE, your teaching school?
Did they let you out? They knew what was happening. So, cool. Literally, it was only about 2 weeks. 2 weeks or a month.
Okay.
When I left, but I enjoyed the teaching side of it, but and I would have enjoyed it if I hadn't had the chance, but. It's something you want to do as a kid, and you get a second opportunity.
Yes, of course.
Unfortunately, it went well for me.
Incredibly
because
well.
When you're up front, my career, you've already mentioned it, my career is not based on how many chances I missed, chances I created for other people, how well I played. To me and to the supporters, how many goals did you score?
Yeah.
And that's all the basis is when you look at it. And fortunately, I scored 178. I probably missed more than 178, but supporters only remember the goals that you've scored. And I will say this about one person. Dean Coney gets horrendous stick from some of the Fulham supporters because of one chance that he missed at home against Leicester.
Really?
And they always mention that. And I'll tell you what, I'll stick up for Dean Coney till the day I die, because even though he didn't score that many goals, his average isn't that bad.
Yeah.
But he created more goals for me, for Ray Houghton, for Robert Wilson, for Sean O'Driscoll, for whoever. And he was a fantastic player to play up front with. And to have a go at him for one missed chance.
Right. But yeah,
we're talking before a Liverpool game now.
Yeah.
And whether people have seen it, Malcolm McDonald did an interview with ex-Fulham players.
Yeah.
And he said, and I couldn't be on it with him, but he said, it was a fantastic night. He said, Gordon Davies, he said he had 4 one-on-ones with Grobbelaar, and he said he missed them all. Well, I've seen the chances, and I know the chances. 3 were diving headers from acute angles,
right,
which at least Grobbelaar saved.
Yeah.
And the last one, ball's knocked over the top. Mark Lawrenson goes to try and kick it away, and it comes off his toe and bounces forward. I get onto it. I get into the edge of the box, and I've got 3 or 4 Liverpool players converging in on me.
Yeah, you've got to think quick at that point.
And I could see a big gap, top right-hand corner, and I've tried to hit it with the inside of my right foot, bend it around Grobbelaar, put it in top right-hand corner. I mishit it and put it about 4 yards wide.
Okay.
And you can see, if you see it on YouTube, you can see Grobbelaar going like that, because and I should have just hit it.
Right.
Should have just belted it as hard as I could.
So what's Malcolm going on about then? Was he throwing you under the bus?
No. I think what he thinks that we created 4 chances, or I had 4 chances, and he always said I usually put 1 out to 2 away. It could have been so different. But the last one, people don't remember the last one I missed. And that could have put us 1-0 up.
Yeah.
Because Souness scored a half-hit shot.
Right.
So, but yeah, people don't remember. When you've scored 178, people don't remember the ones you've missed,
Gordon,
which I'm fortunate for.
This is very triggering, you talking about Fulham missing chances against Liverpool, because we are about to watch Liverpool-Fulham, biggest game for them for a long time. And that's like across modern history. But what's really interesting to me, beyond your playing careers, you stopped playing for Fulham in the early 90s, would it be?
It would have been round about sort of 89, 90.
89, 90.
Yeah.
So you are one of the few people that have such a breadth of history of Fulham, that you saw from away from the pitch the really bleak years between early 90s and 96, where obviously you've got such legacy of the club, but it felt like the club might be under, and then the way you view your history with Fulham must be dependent in some ways on the success of the club. Do you know what I mean? It's
a situation. The club could have gone out of business.
Right.
We could have been Fulham Park Rangers.
Yeah.
And when I came back for my second spell at the club, Bulstrode was chairman or owner, whichever you want to put it. And I had a chat with him after speaking to Ray Lewington. I had a chat with Bulstrode, and Bulstrode said to me that nothing is happening with this club. This club is staying here at Craven Cottage, and we're not going to merge you with anybody. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. So I signed the contract, and I came back for my second spell.
Right.
Within, I don't know, whether it was a month, 2 months, when from the older supporters, we played Walsall. Walsall were in a similar position. So Fulham and Walsall supporters both came on the pitch at half-time to invade the pitch, try and stop the game, because they were both in a similar position. But basically, Bulstrode was a con merchant. He conned me. He lied to my face. Because if he'd have told me the truth, I probably wouldn't have signed, because I wouldn't have wanted to come back. And then suddenly, 1 year later, you've moved out, the cottage is sold, it's developed, and we end up as Fulham Park Rangers.
Of course.
So fortunately, the club was saved. And yes, there were some very, very tough times after that. And it was only through the likes of Bill Muddyman, who was initially putting money in to keep the club going.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Al Fayed came in.
Yeah, right. And have you stayed in touch with Fulham, as in watching Fulham since you stopped playing? Have you always come and watched Fulham? Have it been years?
No, because I was living sort of in the Midlands.
Of course, yeah.
And my house was still up in Cheshire after leaving Man City, so we never moved down. I sort of rented when I came back for the second. So I moved back up.
Okay.
So it was only when they got into the Premier League that I was then approached to do something on the hospitality side of things.
Yeah.
So I sort of
it's great.
Took a chance.
If you want to do hospitality, it's great, because Gordon and Les are it's like being in Fulham Valhalla with the greats. It's like being all snug in paradise, Fulham paradise. And that leads me to our next question, because you know more than anybody else. We thought no one would be better placed to do this than anyone else. What is your all-time Fulham team from the start of your playing career to present day? Have you been ever asked to do that? Do you ever do that in your head?
I've probably been asked one Probably asked to do it once.
I'm going to write it down on my phone.
And then about a month ago, I was asked to do a Fulham 11, basically from everybody that's played for the club.
Yeah.
And that was difficult.
From everyone, okay, yeah.
Because I had George Cohen and, who did I put at left back? Can't think who I put at left back now. But it was people from the 50s right up to now.
Oh, wow.
And then I had 9 substitutes.
Oh, for God's
9 substitutes, and I picked 2 managers. I can't think of the team now. But from my playing days...
Until now, though.
We're asking a very similar thing, so we're putting you right on the spot here.
Okay. I would probably...
Who's in goal?
I'm going to have to go... with some of the team that I picked.
Of course, that's why.
I'd probably go as Van der Sar in goal.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
Van der Sar's in goal. Who's in front of the two central defenders?
The central defenders. One is Breda Hangeland.
Come on.
Strong.
Talking my language.
The second one, I'm not going for pace, but I'm going to put Chris Coleman.
Little dig there.
Leadership as well.
Because he's a man mountain, and he's a good friend as well. But he's not getting in because he's my friend. He's getting in because as a centre back, I saw him as a left back at Swansea.
Oh right, yeah.
As an 18, 19-year-old, and this microphone is more muscular than Chris was then. He was like a beanpole. At left back,
who's left back?
I think you've got to go Robinson, the way that he's been playing.
Oh, I love that.
He's been very good.
Right back. I'm
Steve
going to
Finnan?
go Steve Finnan.
Yeah.
Which is the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I think he's been looking back, he's one of our best right backs.
Oh, this
we've
is
had.
solid. So we've got back fours.
Across the middle of the park,
come on.
Ray Houghton is definitely
in
there.
Distributing.
Let's see. I'm going to go Dembele.
Oh,
because if he'd only scored more goals, he would have been worth an absolute fortune.
He would have been a fortune. I mean, for some reason, he was incredible at everything, but all his shots seemed to just roll straight to the keeper. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So he's in the middle.
So right and left.
You've got to go Palhinha in there.
Oh, Palina's in. Yeah. Okay.
On the left side, it's either Legwinski or Malbronk.
Oh, come on.
And I think I'm going to go for Malbronk.
Yes.
Steed's in.
And 2 up front.
Well, you're one of them.
No, I'm not one.
Let's put him in sub.
Okay. One has got to be
rolling sub.
Mitrovic.
Yeah.
And then the other one's going to be Louis Saha.
Come on.
That is a dangerous team.
What a team. So we've got Gordon Davies, all-time Fulham 11, and he knows. Edwin van der Sar in goal. Front, it's a flat back 4. Steve Finnan right back. Left back Robinson.
Yeah.
Yeah, very modern pick, very topical. And centre backs are Coleman and Hangeland.
I'm going to be slaughtered on this because I know somebody's going to say, well, why didn't you pick him? Why? It's just off the top of my head, so that's my first.
The 4 in midfield. Malbrank's playing right midfield. Is he playing right midfield, Malbrank? Yeah, he would be playing right midfield.
Yeah.
So out of Dembele, Ray Houghton, sorry.
Houghton's going to be wide.
Houghton's going to play left midfield, and in the middle is Dembele and Palhinha. Come on, and Saha and Mitro up top.
Yeah,
that's a competitive team.
Who's managing?
Alan Dix.
Alan?
No. No. It's got to be. Although you probably get them not to play as attacking football, it's got to be Malcolm McDonald. Nice. I can't go for Roy Hodgson. It's got to be Malcolm McDonald.
I love this.
It's great.
And just on your 11, we are, on this podcast, we get all the greats of the club to come and speak to us. Everyone has been unbelievable, yourself included. There's one person we can't get hold of for love nor money, and that is Steve Malbrank, who nobody has had any contact with whatsoever since his playing career. And it turns out he is deeply elusive. Have you had any contact with Steve Malbrank?
No.
Nothing?
No.
I would have said, don't even try.
Yeah, Bo just said you won't find him.
No. I didn't even speak to him when he was playing here. I've hardly ever spoken to the players in the first team unless they've been injured.
When you mention it, when you put him in your team, I thought, hey,
yeah, I know. It might.
There's one man that might know him.
Yeah.
All right, we hit a dead end. No. Do you know what? It's been really lovely to chat to you.
Gordon.
You are such a part of this place. It's such an important part of the place. And I'm saying it right now, your record won't be beaten.
It's nice for you to say, and yes, I think it's safe for if I say 5 or 6 years. But when you think about it, I'll be 69 this year. So in another sort of say 6 years, I'll be 75. And let's be fair, somebody's got to break that record, Scoon. I can't celebrate my 75th birthday with the next interview, and then you say, well, you're still holding the record.
Yeah.
And I'll be going, yes, I will.
Currently, right now, there's no one close. Man.
Yeah, we'll see you in 6 years. Book it in.
Yeah. Seriously.
No, thanks, guys. I've enjoyed it, and I hope if people watch it and listen to it, I hope it puts a smile on their faces.
You will. 100%.
Come on, Fulham.
Gordon Davies there, man. What a lovely guy. I loved hearing about. I always think it's pretty incredible when you have that kind of, not rags to riches. I always try and cover my back with these sayings that I throw out there in case I offend anyone. But to go from PE teacher to suddenly playing, for Fulham and all the other massive clubs he's played for as well. It's just, he was ready to pack it in, and then, teaching little nippers 1 minute and then, breaking records the next. Incredible.
Absolutely, and the thing that I really love about doing this is that we can stretch the lineage of Fulham back a little bit. So like having Rob Scott in the 96-7 team and then Gordon as well. It's not just about modern Fulham, it's about all the different versions of Fulham and trying to draw and trace a thread that makes Fulham, even across those changing generations.
Yeah.
So that was a really beautiful thing to do. And another person who is fundamental in that chasing of a thread is Chris Coleman.
Oh man, Cookie.
Who we saw, we'll save it for next time because it's a great episode, but we saw him as a player at his peak, as a manager, and then he still comes back to Fulham and is just sort of like an effervescent presence at the Cottage, really, isn't he, when he comes back?
Unbelievable.
So a real, true Fulham legend.
And I don't know how you felt about him. Looked good, smelt great.
Always.